Hello and welcome to the Talking Shit Podcast review of Son of Kong. King Kong was a phenomenon that lasts to this day. Most people forget or are unaware that a sequel to the original film exists. Ironically, 9 months after the first film took cinemas by storm, Son of Kong was delivered. The sequel gets a very bad rep though, and I understand some of the criticism, but it's actually a very good sequel that lives up to almost an impossible task, and at the same time doesn't retread the original film's plot as most sequels do. Returning from the first film, Robert Armstrong, Frank Riker, and Victor Wong as their characters Carl Denham, Captain Englehorn, and Charlie all return in the second Kong film. Denham is hiding from lawsuits left and right after the rampage of Kong. The film picks up much like the film's release only a few months after the first film. The remaining crew takes to sea mainly to avoid litigation and return to Skull Island with a few new friends and foes. And while searching for the rumored gold on the island, they run into a young yet large ape that seems to be the son of Kong.
If we could get logs and things to him, maybe he could get out.
Aren't you afraid of him?
Yes, sort of. Well, it sounds kind of silly, but I'm sorry for him.
So am I. But I've got a reason.
Helen Mack does her best to fill the leading lady role in what's obviously a lower budget follow-up, Fast Track to cash in on Kong's success. Sims home video wasn't a thing until the late 70s. It wasn't just in recent years that sequels were rushed into production. Despite all of this, the sequel actually feels a tad more polished than the original film, since now they knew how to do a lot of the special effects and utilize them in ways that complemented their execution better. Ruth Rose has the sole writing credit on this underrated sequel, and though it takes over a half of the film's short running time to get to see the title character, the movie doesn't really lull too much, only here and there in the first half. And sure, some of the pacing is a tad off in the first half as pointed out, and an excessive amount of time is used to introduce Helen Mack's character and a few others into the story. It still feels like more or less filler, causing the back end of the film to feel a tad rushed. And luckily, the Eighth Wonder's boy is lovable because we are given very little time to get to know him. Even though all this, the film is still enjoyable enough, and the movie charmed me, as I'm sure it may many of you, more than you'd expect. Of course, just like Carl Denham says though to the young lovable ape, he isn't a patch on his old man, but Son of Kong is still an undeniable, impossible feat. The movie is more than a worthy follow-up to the original film, considering you cannot live up to the original, and is a must-see for any Kong fan.
Skipper, believe it or not, there's a little Kong. What? A little... How little?
The film itself gets 7 out of 10 stars, and both the DVD and Blu-ray with no special features to speak of get 5 out of 10. Keep talking shit.